Evening, everyone, and welcome to another Facebook Live session here at the Innovative Dad. I am Dr. Ari Yaris. I'm a licensed psychologist and a former private school principal with over 15 years of experience working with parents and children who are experiencing both academic and behavioral challenges. So I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about building some study skills in our kids. Now, I think it's really important to note that learning doesn't just happen at school. And we need to recognize that we as parents are key players in helping our children develop the skills that they need to have to be able to learn independently. That's not to say that the schools aren't significant partners in this and aren't in some cases even taking the lead. But I found with over time that oftentimes schools forget about teaching student skills, which are those skills necessary to help you as a learner sort of negotiate through your environment. And I think, we as parents have a role in helping to get our kids to engage. And certainly at the forefront of this, we play a role in helping to motivate our children and getting them to become interested and engaged and excited about learning, sometimes in ways that we are ourselves and sometimes in ways that we weren't, depending upon the kind of student that we were. Not all of us are come from experiences, which is can't still continue to support our children with giving them great student skills and really helping them become better at learning how to learn and what to do. And improving their study skills, and particularly this idea of being able to learn independently, and helping kids figure out how to focus on new information and what to do with previously learned information and how to get ready for a test and what to do with assignments that they've been handed where there's an expectation that they complete them somewhat independently or completely independently for that matter. So we as parents play a key role in that. So I'm going to start off by let's just touch a little bit about motivating our children to learn, because I think that is really a key aspect of this. But also then we'll start to touch a little bit about helping our kids plan and building out some of those skills. So, I think key is we need to help kids understand that they have some control over their academic success. This is really about making sure that they develop an internal locus of control about their learning, and that they don't believe that their learning is something that is happening to them, but it's something that they are actively engaged in and have a sense of control over, and that their success is often tied to effective studying, and that one of the simple things you can do is to have your kids keep track of the amount of time that they're spending studying and then the grades that come from that, and sort of that I think I can message, the lunging that could, really very much tied to what we've been talking about in past conversations about growth mindset, as well as about grit. Clearly, we need to make sure that our kids believe and understand that learning is important. And whenever you can create opportunities to connect the real world to their learning, you need to do that. So as you're hearing about the things that they're learning in school and you're going about your daily lives together, or on the weekends when you're out traveling or running errands, see where you can make those connections that are, where you're solving problems or engage in an activity, and so your kids get the sense that you view their learning as important. Connected to this motivating piece is that we need to help our kids develop goals and plans for studying, and these goals need to be things that are both long-term and short-term. So a long-term goal might be thinking about a career path in college and the sort of big picture, big things. And a short-term goal might be just a particular grade on a certain test. Both of those are fine. You want to make sure that the kids understand that the best goals are really about the learning process and the learning, and not necessarily what the grade is. Again, that's tying in the fact that we believe that the effort is going to help them with success. And I think you need to make sure that your kids recognize that they enjoy learning. That learning is a natural activity. No matter what we're doing moving through our lives, we are always finding that there are new things to understand. Whether it's a hobby that we're doing, or it's a video game that they're playing and they're trying to figure out, well, how do I get my person to jump here or get out of this particular level, what have you. Think about what your kids' favorite topics are and what you can do to help bridge the gaps between those favorite topics and things that they're learning. And also having conversations with kids that there are going to be learning activities that they really dislike, and practice exercises that are just, they're not fun. There's an element of tediousness to them. But they are going to have others that they are really engaged with, and by and by their school experience is going to be a mix of these, hopefully. And again, to deal with that sort of wanting them to enjoy learning piece, if your child dislikes a particular topic, then break up the practice into more palatable chunks so that they're not getting overwhelmed and frustrated about it. Okay. So that's sort of the motivating learning element of it, and that's something that certainly we as parents can play a very key role in. But I here, and this again goes to making sure that our kids are developing those student skills, those study skills that we want them to have, is helping our kids learn how to plan. In a previous conversation, we've talked about executive functioning, and knowing that this is an emerging skill for kids is really, really critical, and that we as their parents, as essentially the CEO of their lives in many respects, are going to have to help build the scaffoldings to get them to move to a point where their executive functioning skills are kicking in, and they're starting to do this more and more for themselves. So you want to start with having kids help plan and review their learning. So you want them to get committed to a study plan. So that's the where, the when, the how. I'm going to study after school. And these are things kids in upper elementary and certainly high school have the ability to do. It is within their wheelhouse and the skill sets that they have to really start engaged in this process, which I think is great. And then, like with anything, if you're getting involved in developing a plan, then you need to do an analysis afterwards. So after they've studied, they've committed to that where, when, and the how, they got to ask themselves, well, how did I know when I had studied enough? And how did I check my studying? And how did I keep myself motivated? How much time did I plan to study versus how much did I actually really spend studying? Did I feel prepared for the class, the test, whatever it is they were studying in preparation for? And what grade do I think that I'm going to get coming from this? And of course, sort of the big picture piece is, okay, well, I made a plan. Did I actually follow that plan? And if I didn't, what are the changes that I made as part of that? And what changes might I need to make in the future to make this work a little bit better for me? You want to compare the study plan and the answers with the grades to help figure out what strategies were the most effective, and then, change the next study plan. So these 4 steps of committing to a study plan, evaluating the study plan, comparing the study plan and your answers to that evaluation with your grades, and then making changes in the next one, I think is really, really important. Other things to think about that we as parents can provide as sort of supports in this are, in helping our kids setting up those plans, consider having them do the harder work first when they're more alert. The easier work will seem to go faster after that. So if there's a particular subject that they struggle with, you may want to start with that and then move to a more complicated topic. Then move to an easier topic after you've dealt with the more complicated ones. You need to make sure that you're providing an atmosphere that is conducive to learning. You need to balance studying with other activities, chores, and downtime. We don't want them to turn into studyaholics, and we don't want to create a situation where they believe that school and their obligations to school trump everything else. So, I've got to study, therefore I'm going to leave my dishes on the table after dinner kind of phenomenon. No, that's not acceptable. That studying needs to be balanced with their other obligations. And in creating an atmosphere that's conducive to learning for our kids, we also need to think about and help our kids figure out when they're most available in terms of their cognitive availability for studying, and help minimize distractions. We as parents have a role to play in terms of encouraging collaboration between home and school. Keep your kids' teachers in the loop about how homework and studying are going. If there's a particular topic that your child is struggling with, or particular assignments that they're not understanding, then keep the teacher in the loop about that. You also want to find out what kind of study strategies are being taught in the school. And a couple of minutes ago, I was sort of poo-pooing the fact that many schools don't do this, but schools do some of it. And you want to find out what that is, because the teachers are going to know the kinds of materials that kids are encountering, how to give them better study strategies for that to help their learning. Something else that we can do as parents is to help our kids find additional sources for homework support. So things to be thinking about in studying sport. Can the homework or the studying be done after school? Does your child's school have a homework club, or are there arrangements for drop-in help from teachers, office hours, so to speak? And those could be before school, after school, or during lunch. And then also, particularly as our kids get older, having them find study buddies or study groups and getting them involved in that. I also see that as being a really valuable thing. You want to work with your kids to help figure out what the best setting is for their learning, whether it's the bedroom, the kitchen, or someplace outside of the house, particularly for older children. They might find it more conducive, particularly if you were like me and had younger siblings, to be someplace else for your studying. And then I think key also within this is teaching your child how to ask for help. That there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't get this. I need it explained to me again. Because if they're just staring at a math problem that they're supposed to be working on and they have no idea how to approach it, then really what good is that? Okay, so next area I want to take a look at is teaching our kids effective study strategies. And this breaks into a lot of different areas, so we're going to go move through them one by one. First, let's talk a little bit about organization. Have a special place to keep school materials. I'll have a video up in a little while on our parenting strategies to Kid Habits tip series about homework boxes and some tips and tricks around that. You want to make sure that they're tracking assignments in a planner or another tool. A lot of schools provide kids with paper planners that go into their notebooks for them to write things down. If your kid is a digital child and has a device, there are a large number of task planning apps that they can use to also keep track of what they're doing. And you want to have them, as they're planning and as they're writing these things down, start to think about and to estimate how long each assignment is going to take, because that'll help them develop that plan that we talked about a little earlier. Okay. We want to help our kids, and particularly in building their study skills and these study strategies, develop their listening skills. You want to check for understanding. Can you restate to me? Can you repeat to me what it is that you're doing on this? This is a strategy that I've written about before on the blog, and you can take a look at that post as well. I'll put it in the comments. About the advantage of doing a repeat or a repeat back, and giving everybody, giving your child having a chance to restate something in their own words, as well as you being able to hear that they truly understand what they're doing with this. For younger kids, You may want to have them look at a particular assignment or materials that they're going over and circle the action words. So if they've got a list of things they should be doing, circle those verbs and then cross them off in completion. It'll help them get a better sense and start to figure out, how do I parse apart a longer assignment or a larger assignment that I've been given? And then, this should go without saying, but I think it's something that is important. So I'm going to say it anyway. You want to make sure, as part of your child visits, that your child's hearing is being screened on a regular basis. And it's nothing wrong with calling the doctor and having that done if you've got a concern about whether or not, from a biological or neurological perspective, they're actually hearing things. And this is also something that becomes an issue around times like now, where the pollen is everywhere. And our ears are clogged up and allergies are having their way with us. Okay, let's talk a little bit about reading skills as well, because you can't study, you can't do homework without those reading skills in place. So you want to encourage your kid to do what we call pre-reading. So for nonfiction, pre-reading looks like taking a look at the heading, the title, pictures, graphics, and skimming through those, looking at the introduction, the preface, and the conclusion of a text. Yes, you can read the conclusion first in a nonfiction text. It's not going to spoil the story. And then skimming the main body, and that's a pre-reading strategy for nonfiction text. For fiction text, have them explore the front and back cover of the book. If there's an introduction, to read that. And then maybe skim the first part of the chapter. Skimming is reading sort of it quickly, not for levels of detail, but to get a little bit of familiarity with the setting, the plot, and the characters, and that'll start to prime them for a better reading experience. You also want to check and make sure that they're paying attention when they're reading or when they're being read to. Ask them to connect with their reading or hearing to their own life and give examples. Have them use visual aids within the text to explain things. So if there's a graphic or a chart, have them expound upon that. I think it's very important to teach our kids to be active readers who outline and annotate the work that they're doing with. Highlighting is a really important skill to have. Now, obviously, if you don't own the textbook, you don't want your kid highlighting in it, because none of us want to pay a random extra charge for a fourth grade math textbook. But you can keep those notes in a special textbook, a special notebook, or you can use Post-it notes and tape flags to help find things in the text better that aren't going to damage the book. Beyond that, you can as well use a Kindle. So if you've got access to the book electronically, and the Kindle software has some wonderful annotation tools within it where you can highlight and you can write notes, and then you can look at those notes on other devices as well. You want to work with kids to help them distinguish between important and unimportant information. Often ask the question, what is the most important thing here? I mentioned before the repeat strategy, but have them retell what was just read in their own words and summarize it. Another strategy that teachers use is the idea of looking for clicks and clunks. So clicks are understanding, clunks are not understanding. So, click, clunk. And ways of looking at that is, okay, well, what's the assignment? What am I supposed to be learning? What are the main ideas here? And a click is when they've got an understanding of the answer to that question, and a clunk is when they don't. And when they don't, you go back over the clunks and reinforce what's happening there. If they do seem to be struggling, which is okay, it's going to happen, remind them to slow down, reread, and look up unfamiliar material. Have them retell a section out loud to you and explain pictures and charts and graphs. And then you may want to connect with the teacher, because if you are seeing serious reading issues with your child, there may be something more there, a learning disability, dyslexia, something like that, that we're going to want to have a look at a little bit deeper, or even something, just a comprehension issue, that they need to build some skills in terms of improving how they comprehend texts. All right, math and science. You want to encourage them to use math that they've learned on a daily basis. And, as much as we may sit back as parents and go, oh, I hate math, we really do use it a lot more frequently than even we think that we do. But there's math involved in the cooking going on in the house. I have a child who's working on fractions right now. Cooking is filled with fractions, particularly if you're trying to double a recipe. Money. measuring things for home repair. Estimation is constantly in use. Calculating time. So these are all places where you can sort of reinforce math skills. With this kind of work, you also want to make sure that you take a look at their corrected work and to see if the errors are understood. Have them go back and retry the problem to get the correct answer. And then you may want to use a strategy like one that I've put together in one of my parenting strategies to kid habits tip that we call Uncle Check, that helps them with word problems and really gives them a list of strategies for going through those. And that'll really help build up their skills for math and science. We need to pay attention to reporting skills in daily life, having kids look for information in books, charts, maps. Have them grab a cookbook off the shelf and try and find a recipe. Teach them to be able to go in the index and say, okay, I need a recipe for potatoes. How many potato recipes are in there? Tell me what they are and where they are in the cookbook. It's a great strategy for helping them be able to search for information. Encourage them to use outlines and note cards to organize information. If you were like me, you hated doing that when you were putting together a report. I just want to sit and write it out. But taking that time to outline what you're working on is really valuable in terms of helping them build out their skills for writing reports and papers and things. As a parent, it's not a bad thing to take a look at a first draft, give them some feedback. Do not write it for them. I think I've said this before. It's not your homework. You finish the grade that they're in. Have them look for basic accuracy after completing assignments. Simple things. Is capitalization present, punctuation, spelling. And then I think also as well, in terms of helping them with this work, is having them learn keyboarding or using voice dictation to be able to record what they're working on. Lastly, let's hit on test taking and some more direct studying habits. It's really key to encourage your kids to chunk their studying rather than cramming. We've all done it. Those late nights where we're just, okay, I'm going to stay up and I'm just going to get all of this information shoved into me. The science says that that's not really as effective as we would like it to be. So breaking it apart, chunking it so that you're doing a little bit on Monday night, a little on Tuesday night, a little on Wednesday night, and the test is on Thursday, is going to help you better retain the information. You may want to have your child create fact sheets of key ideas and terms and have them scatter them randomly on the page because if they can start to recall details in random order, they're stored in your brain. It should go without saying that you want to encourage your kids to get plenty of rest before big tests. And then, we can play a great role in helping to motivate our kids around their studying and their test taking and building up those test taking skills. So here's something that, you can break out the music, high volume, bass heavy songs can feel empowering. So, let's get the Eye of the Tiger on the stereo or play it from your phone and just sort of get that pumping in their blood. You may also want to have them work with them on their physical posture. That's going to help them have confidence. So if research says if you start to slouch over, you make yourself small, it's connected with having less confidence. But if you stretch your bodies out into a power pose and really get yourself feeling tall, you're going to build that confidence. And I'll put a link up in the comments here for what some power poses can be. It's stuff coming straight out of yoga. All right, I know you're going to laugh at this one, but believe it or not, Lucky Charms don't hurt because they, again, get us to think positively about things. And I don't mean Lucky Charms the cereal. I mean, your horseshoe, your rabbit's foot, which I guess wasn't so lucky for the rabbit, but whatever it is that you attribute some sense of luck, if it can be a focal item for concentration, that's great. Believe it or not, cuteness can help us concentrate better. So, bring on the adorable puppies and kittens, and, taking a look at an image like that and going, oh, that's so cute, can actually help us concentrate better. Also, you might want to take your kid aside and have them brainstorm a list of victories. I was successful at all these times, and it doesn't matter if it's a small thing or a big thing. Framing this, it really does help put us in a more positive place. And then, a really simple thing, walking out of the house, day of the test, with that smile on, can do a lot. Speaking of the day of the test, there are a few things that you can do to help your kids. And again, this is stuff that you're encouraging them to do, but you're not necessarily doing them for them. So encourage them to have all their supplies with them on the day of the exam. They should be learning to read the directions first. We've all heard that apocryphal story about the teacher passing out a test, and it has this long list of instructions, and everybody starts on step one, and they're writing things, and they're circling things, and they're drawing in different colors. And then at the end of the test, the last instruction says, "Do not do any of the above steps. Please write your name at the top of the paper and bring it up to me." And of course, nobody does that because they didn't actually read through all the directions. That being said, as part of that, you want to skim through the test to see what the expectations are, what the work is. You want to encourage them to read questions carefully to make sure they understand what's being asked. They may want to outline important points before responding to essays, and have them, this is the thing I struggle with still, but encourage them to write neatly. It really is going to help. And then they should be rechecking their work if there's time. So that's a lot of different things that we can be doing as parents to support our kids with their student skills, with their study skills, in a way that isn't doing the work for our kids, but given where they are developmentally with their executive functioning skills, whether they're an elementary school age child or a high school age child or even a college student, these are places where their brain is still developing, and we as a parent can help provide scaffolding in a safe and supportive way that isn't going to turn you into a helicopter parent. Is going to keep you in that place of support, but not doing it for them, which I think is really, really important. So these simple approaches and these simple strategies are great ways to help kids be able to plan and execute their homework that I think will really solidly enhance their school performance and get them to a place of success, which I think is really, really important. All right. So that's building study skills to help learning, a whole bunch of tips and tricks for us as parents to be working with. I will be back in another 2 weeks with another Facebook Live event. We'll be talking about a slightly more serious topic, and that of depression. What is it? How do we treat it? What can we as parents do to help our children when they're facing intense feelings of sadness? And what are some of the resources out there to help kids? So that'll be in 2 weeks' time. I hope you'll be able to join me for that. In the meantime, make sure to stay tuned to the Innovative Dad Facebook page here, as well as my Instagram account, which is Ari Yaris, first name and my last name. And I am posting a new series of parenting strategies to kid habits tips that you can take a look at. And these are short 1-minute videos of simple little things that we can do to improve our experiences as parents and really work on building our kids towards greater and greater independence, which is really, I think, a very important key goal for us as parents. And you can find those, again, as I said, on Facebook, on Instagram, as well as on my webpage, www.ariyaris.com. In addition, if you have not already joined our Facebook group, we have a great new group that is just up and running really recently, where we're talking about innovative parenting, and in particular, hacks and successes and things that we can do as parents to improve our parenting experiences, reduce our stress level, get us out of that survival mode. So that's the Innovative Parenting and Hacks for Moms and Dads group. You're welcome to join the conversation there as well. And I look forward to having you taking part of that. So this has been another Facebook Live session with the Innovative Dad. I'm Dr. Ari Yaris, and I wish you a successful and happy parenting. Have a good night.